electricity, radio was quite a big influence in the 50s when I came on board. Cars were very scarce, so life was very localised, and obviously being near the town, we had plenty of interest in the town with the cinema and all the other activities and meeting around the town.
And there was buses.
I went to primary school,
because we'd never been on a bus, much. And we're all walking out to St John's Road to Ballyfermot. You had a couple of choices where you wanted to live, but all the people around where we were going for Ballyfermot. They were all brand new houses. And when we got out there, the kids all went wild. It used to the Korean War was on around that time. We used to call it Little Korea.
And the buyer, no, that's
right. That's some good fun there,
Not the potatoes, then the spring, and then the sowing the corn and all that.
Today they're all done up. They've done them all up. That's all them coloured doors that you see around of Dublin. The doors of Dublin. They're all Georgian houses. They're all solicitors'
Who was the team when did you start playing Gaelic football?
In 1971, as soon as I started playing hurling for the local club, St. Paul, I started playing football as well. I had to be taught it like I had to
wasn't it a blood shot, what do you call it?
I got by.
Now you're getting man of the match.
A bit of a contradiction. I think that might be a sympathy vote.
So who was part of the team then? Who was managing?
Managing.
All through 7 days a week.
I was managing the team back then. Because I can recall, I remember a lot of the players, Nicky Higgins,
and you walk in, you're on the boat, and you just walk up into the boat ship, and there was terrible conditions. 50,000 people living every week.
Mick Griffin, John Bruder,
you were on sort of floorboards, and you could smell all the cows.
I was born in Catwell in Cork City, Southern Ireland. I was born in 1938.
I was born Annie Sheridan in Shammerbone, Kilkelly, County Mayo in 1951. So that leaves me 64 years of age at the moment.
I was born the 1st of December 1947 in Leicester. Actually in Kirby-Muxloe.
I was born in Galway in 1920, and
I was born in Cahersabeen, County Kerry, on the 6th day of July 1944.
I was born in Dublin, and I was brought up about 13.5 miles from Dublin in a little village called Old Town. We had 2 little tiny shops there. One was a half of a pub and the other sold bits of everything.
So I come from Dublin, but I was only 15.5 years of age when I came to England with my parents. We came to London because that's where my father had a job, and before that he worked in West Bromwich in the West Midlands. And later moved to London, and that's where he got a house for us to live in when we came over to England in 1956. Initially, I wasn't supposed to come at all. I was left with my grandmother to finish my education in Dublin.
I was born in Skibbereen in Ireland, County Cork. Southern Ireland it is, obviously, as most people will know. I was born in 1942. And I came over to England in 1958. Mum brought me over, as she did all of the others. I'm one of 21 children, which might shock most people, but I'm the 3rd youngest.
I lived with my mother and father and my brother, and went to Kilkelly National School, and I started school when I was 4 because the numbers were reduced, and the head teacher said we had to go to school to make up the numbers.
Once I made my Holy Communion, my mum and dad turned around and said, You've reached the sense now, you know how old things are, you know the difference between right and wrong. So I never ever touched drink. Before then, before the age of 7, when we had visitors, we used to drain the bottles. That's all we used to do.
Yeah, so that had been about 55, 56, yeah. So that was, so at that time, like all the younger generation were leaving, the area at that time. None of them were getting married. In my time at school and in town and that, I only remember about 2 marriages taking place in the local church. So people just went away and, didn't return.
Very, very strict school days. We went to what you call a national school, and we had to pay for everything. We had to pay for our own books, pencils, pens, you name it, we had to pay for it.
And when I was about 8 years of age, a new school was built, and then we moved into the new school, which was absolutely fabulous to have the new school with flush toilets and much better facilities in the school at that time, yeah.
But I was doing well in Skibbereen at school. I even making a skirt. I was only in 3rd class, or only 9. Making a skirt, putting the elastic in and stuff. Just ordinary straight skirts with elastic in. And when the teacher went out of the room, I suppose she had to go to the toilet, she used to get me to stand up and read to the class. So I got a high-pitched voice, I was told. The nun called me hyena at one stage when I was playing in the playground. Because I broke the glass. Well, we were playing football, you see, in the playground.
Well, as all over, in most parts of Ireland, as far as I'm aware, the church owned the buildings in the school and the land, and you had to be a baptised Catholic, as far as I was aware, to attend the school in the town, yeah.
You got no buses, but when I lived there used to be a bus once a week. Unless you sort of like walk 2.5 miles, and then you'd get a bus various times.
Living in Ireland was alright up to the age of 14, 15. When I started work at 14 as a joiner. The job was handed to me by my dad. I served an apprenticeship.
Where I was born is very rural in Ireland, and the scenery is absolutely beautiful. And I came from a really friendly neighbourhood, village, and the people were really nice and kind to each other. And it was very much the neighbours looked after each other.
When we're talking about 1954, 55, 7 or 8 years of age, first memories perhaps, or before that, of Kells, County Meath. The 1950s. I know now that the electric went into Kells in 1928. This was the early 50s. There was no electric in Granny's house. None whatsoever. Gas mantles downstairs, candles upstairs. No bathroom. No water inside in the house. A wash upstairs was a jug and a bowl. The tap was outside in the yard. Don't ask me where the toilet was. I can't remember. It was probably a po under the bed.
When you were young, you were taught how to tell the tale. That was part of the, I suppose you say, the process of, passing on how to tell the story. So, because there was no good going visiting to the neighbour house, you had to have a story when you went, or otherwise there was no I wouldn't say there was no welcome for you, but there wasn't really any welcome unless you you had to have that story tale with you. We would say, you have the tale. So when you were very young, we used to play a game. There was a couple of games that you played to tell the story where this, you know, you pass down. One was where you, like, one person would start the story, and then they would then call on the next person. They would say, you know, the parish priest lost his considering cap. Some said this and some said that, and some said Dan. And then you would have to continue on the story. And of course, it'd be, you know, late at night, and whoever would be there would be kind of maybe having a bit of a sleep.
Very beginning, I belong to quite an extensive family in Dublin, mainly on my mother's side. But my father's family came from West Cork, so there was an extensive family in the Drimoleague area of West Cork as well. And so that's my background. Also, my background is middle-class Dublin as opposed to working-class Dublin. So people in Leicester frequently don't think of me as Dubliner because I don't speak right. But like several people in the Emerald Centre, I was actually born in the Rotunda Hospital at the north end of O'Connell Street in April 1941. And I once met people here in Leicester, 3 women who were born within the month, probably delivered by the same person in the same hospital, the Rotunda Hospital, which is at the north end of O'Connell Street in the centre of Dublin. So I'm a real Dubliner.
They come back to Galway, you see. And Sonny was a rebel. He'd always answer my dad back. And my dad didn't like that. My dad rolled us like a sergeant major. And my other brother Johnny was a bit easygoing. But Sonny was a right rebel. And he got a job in Galway working for a fishmonger, of all people. He used to sink a fish after the fish deliveries. But anyway.
Sorry, Steve, what do you mean by sink a fish?
He was delivering fish to the local fish people. That was his job. So anyway, he fell out with my dad because he was answering back all the time. My dad seen him on the Lazy Wall in Galway.
The second of 4 brothers and 1 sister. Went to high school up on the side of the mountain until I was 11 years of age. I had to wait to get the belt from the bishop.
The teacher had to speak properly because I was beginning to talk a bit gypsified because my mum married a gypsy and her people, of course, didn't want to know her. And her sister married his brother, so the mum didn't want to know Maggie or my mum Becky because she married into gypsy people.
Sometimes we used to fast from Friday night till the Sunday. Sometimes we had to do that for the Holy Communion. We used to go to confessions every single week, and you used to have to make up stories because they didn't know what to tell them because they didn't do anything wrong. I've never done anything wrong in my life.
And we haven't got social in Ireland. Socials can go to, like, you go oh, they give me a jar for this, they give me a jar for that. We got none of that in Ireland. If you call the doctor in Ireland, you had to pay the doctor on the door before you come in to examine. Them days, I don't know what's like now, but them days it was. But
come Easter, the men would cut the turf and then they were packing their bags and gone until Christmas. So they were home kind of from Christmas until Easter, and then did the spring work, the spring work, and then that was it. So it was, So
Dad was second eldest of 9. The 2 eldest brothers left Ireland in 1945-46 and came to Leicester, leaving 7 children behind them. Their dad was dead also. He died in 1939. Obviously, I never knew him, but I knew Granny. But Milltown was 200 acres. And it's still there in the family. It belongs to a...
Ireland was difficult for adults because it was the mid-50s. and the economic situation in Ireland was not very good in the 1950s, but it was good for me because I was a child and I didn't have to worry about having to earn money and make sure there was food on the table and things like that. So well, that was it in the...
I think. And I thought there's only one thing for it. When the boss come to me in Galway, and I worked there 3 years, served my time there. I worked for 3 years and the boss said, Steve, I'm very sorry, called me into the office. I'm very sorry, he said, I got to let 2 men go. There wasn't many, there was only about 5 of us there, 5 mechanics. And he said, I got to let 2 men go. And I decided to make 2 single men. He said, you're not married. So he said, it won't hurt you so much.
In the convent till I was just 2 weeks before I was 15. Before I was 16. Yeah, sorry. I was 2 weeks off 16. I come over here in 1958. Mum brought me over.
There was 5 sisters and four brothers counting me. And my mother always used to say, the main thing, she'd say, is the food on the table. And she said, even if I got to patch your trousers, she said, we'll have to try and keep going.
So following the interviews, I was offered the post in Dublin in the civil service with the forestry department as a clerk, and which was unexpected news really for anybody from our area to be working in Dublin in the civil service. Was
my dad would have probably 2 Guinnesses and a little tiny bottle of whiskey, Powers whiskey, a little tiny bottle, and they'd share that out between them, and all my relatives would all come round and we'd all get a few pennies, and we used to be over the moon with them. We used to think it was wonderful.
Mum was 16 when she married him. They did in them days, and her sister married his brother, Jimmy. They used to call my dad Jackie, although his name was John, but I don't know what to call him, Jackie. Jackie and Jimmy.
Yeah. When I left Galway, there was very little happened. There was the odd people used to come into it, but it wasn't a city then. It's a city now. And it's more in...
But a few weeks after my mother and sister left to join my father, my grandmother had a stroke, and I found her in the kitchen, great, dead, well, with a stroke, and then she was taken to hospital. And then I had to come and join my parents rather than staying in Dublin, to stay at the school I'd been at for years. So that's the reason I was in England in the first place. And that was, I arrived in England on Sunday the 11th of November 1956 when they were playing the last post.
Mum and Dad had come to England probably about 1945. Mum and her friend followed Dad and his brother to England, to Leicester basically. I think Dad was in different places slightly before that. He was on a farm, I think in Lincolnshire, and he was somewhere else, and he landed up in Leicester, and his brother, older brother, with him.
And in 1960, February 1960, I decided I got itchy feet. And the train had stopped going down to Renard Point at the time, and I had to get a bus from Carsevine all the way to Killarney. Say goodbye to Mum and Dad and all the rest. They were glad to get rid, I suppose, truth being known. And headed across the river and landed in a place called Reading and then moved on to Staines, Ashford and Middlesex, where I met mother number 2. And believe me, mother number 1 was not a disappointment. And mother number 2, Mrs. Powell and Mike Powell, that were Kilkenny people, and they were not a disappointment. They welcomed me with open hands.
Who was the first one come over? After Dan and Nellie, she brought Patricia. She was the oldest girl in our school when she was 16. Then she brought Josephine, yes. Then Michael from the Lonely Woods of Upton. Then me. And then she went, after a couple of years, she went back and brought Dennis and Brendan over, which I looked after. I was proper little mummy. The youngest brother, Brendan, who comes up now to look after the dog for me, he was 12. And the other brother was Dennis. He was what started, what then owned the Emerald.
And then we moved to be within walking distance of St. Joseph's, because a friend who I'd known in Ireland had married in Leicester as well and had come to live in St. Joseph's Parish.
And I passed that and got a place at Wiggerston Boys' School. John, the next brother, he did the same in his turn the next year, went to Wiggy Boys' School. The other, Claire went to the convent after Holy Cross, and Paul went to English Martyrs. At some stage then...
an insurance my grandmother had for me came to fruition, and I was sent to a secretarial college in North Wembley. So I went to a very old-fashioned and high quality, actually, secretarial college in North Wembley.
Yeah, I sold him his first car, Father Lee. He had an old banger of a car. We sold him another car sometime after we got married, you know. And he used to pop into my house and have a cup of tea with us and chat to Julie, because he knew Julie better than...
Mass every Sunday morning, to the point that at 12 or 13 years of age, Dad might have had a heavy night on a Saturday night, and he'd say to me, turn the car around, start the car, turn the car around, bring it to the door. And occasionally, even young, I drove to Mass. He'd be instructing me, and we'd all go to...
Children's Society and the priests from Radcliffe College talked to each other behind my back, and they provided me with an extra week's wages or something or other, and accepted I wouldn't be working anymore because I had this new baby. They'd also got somebody on their staff who'd had a...
He'd have wedding functions in the hall. He'd have wedding receptions. He'd have dances. He'd have Saturday dances in the hall. And any way he could use the hall and get a bit of money in, he done it, which I always admired him for.
I was 52 or 51, and I got this Master of Philosophy.
Occasionally, like sometimes it'd be if you're leaving early in the morning, you'd have the Holy Cross used to be mass there at 7 o'clock.
We have a spirituality that is all I can say is non-Bible based. I wind up in trouble with certain people these days. I said that our spirituality is based on gospel stories, and my husband here calls me a baptised druid, and that's near enough right.
We went to the church in it was Myra Street down Belgrave. It's a Muslim place, I think, now. And we were saving up pennies and things when we went in there to the collection for St. Patrick's Church up, is it Bowman Leeson, somewhere there anyway.
And I found a book that had been presented to the library in 1800 and something called Old Gaelic Laws. And the book had never been used because they were still joined together up at the top. And one half of the book was in Irish and the other side of the page was in English. Brehon Laws is what they're called. Brehon Laws are common to Ireland and Wales.
I didn't particularly like it that much. It was too noisy for me. I didn't know anywhere or anything like that. So I didn't know who to sort of like communicate with. So I did communicate with my sister. I stayed with my sister for so long. And then I found my own little space.
I wasn't a very, very good guy. Because I thought I knew everything about cooking, washing, God knows what. Was green, Irish, of a family. You've got to ring, feed yourself. Quite happy at the shops, or some sausage, or that, bread, tea, sugar. Come back. Oh, I'm hungry. I do myself hungry. Oh, yeah. And I didn't bring any large. So, my mother used to cook up for I put water in that, I put gas on the boil, frying pan on fire, and running around this room with the frying pan, didn't know what to do with it. So she made the bed with the fire, the room went on fire, and I got cooked up. That was after about 5 hours. So I ended up in high town. Sleeping up for about 6 weeks.
Yeah, then, but most of the flats like had indoor, I think, you know, if you got a bed set. So then anyways, as it happened, I went down to number 42 Saxby Street, and there again, it was another Irish landlord that was there. A really nice man, a Mr. O'Connor, and he was Mayo as it happened. I didn't even know that at the time, and he had a room. And I got the room there. Because before that I was paying in bed and breakfast. I mean, it wasn't that much, but it was just that you didn't have the continuity.
And I was born at a cost of £30 privately in a nursing home in Kirby Muxloe. And the next brother, John, who was born the 1st of December 1948, he was born in the Westcoats nursing home. So the two of us, my dad said, were expensive children.
I found schooling in London very traumatic, although I was always a good student, so...
He said, I've been here in England since I forget what year they went, 1935 he went, and I went in 1939. So of course he tore a strip off me for, I'm a bloody Grecian from Ireland, telling me what to do.
Border Street was the first house. I bought a house in Border Street. I think it was 1,200 quid or something at the time.
We had electric. It was a council house, and a big garden. We had a massive garden. Dad used to grow a lot of vegetables, but it was in the army. He had a good pension. So we were brought up all right until he couldn't work. He suffered very bad with asthma. And when he couldn't work, he went on to drink. And he sold his army pension, and it caused a lot of problems.
Beaumont Lee's like, it was all, well, people our own age, you know, in their mid-20s, I suppose, up to the 30, that age group that lived around us there. And... yeah, everybody was helping each other and, you know, one looking after the others.
Still, I thought it was awful. I couldn't find, if I were looking for a new job, I couldn't. It was all brickwork. Everything was the same. You see, where we come from in Skibbereen, it's like you see on East End, the houses are all coloured. You know what I mean? And I thought it's all brickwork. I don't know which factory, where I'm going. I'm not looking for a job for one.
I was unaware of the Irish community in Leicester, and I'd also married an Englishman, and I was a new bride, so I was trying to go along with him a bit.
We bought our first house in Ayleston, in Middlesex Road. Josephine lives at the back, Shropshire now. That's her. That was our first house we bought.
And if we'd left it and been sensible, we probably wouldn't have got the house because we wouldn't have been able to buy it. and it'll seem incredible to you, but we bought the house for £2,400.
It was only 3,000 something anyway. The house when we first bought it in Middlesex Road.
So, Chris, I think I actually got a letter. I think it's dated the end of January and another one in February, 1969. And by literally Holy Thursday of Easter, which I think was the 3rd of April, we had this baby, bouncing baby. Not a bouncing baby because he was fast asleep. Literally in a carry cot, stuck on a table, not so nice as that one, an old table, second-hand table, of course, and that was it. And he's now 46 years old. Look.
So they used to send me to different hospitals in different places. I worked at different hospitals, Leicester General, the Royal Infirmary, Glenfield Hospital. I worked all over the place, to be quite honest with you. But I really enjoyed it because I used to I loved it so much. You'd get somebody coming in very, very seriously ill. And then when they're going back out, they were happy and contented and they were well. So
going to register to social and everything else, and they got me back on my feet, more or less. And I went out and found a job with Charles Quigley's, King's Cross, London. I was there for 3 years, enjoyed it. Then I decided I had an all groups license, so I decided to go a lorry driver. Then I learned how to drive Arctics and everything else, and I drove Arctics for 42 years all over England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. And
2 years. So when I was in America as well, it was, office-based work. In fact, at that time when I was there, I was PA to the engineers at Bechtel Corporation, and that Christmas when I came home, when I got engaged to Frank, the job was coming up in South America, so I was in line to go with them, with the engineers.
Dad, probably wrong to say he was a jack of all trades. He did whatever he had to do to make a living. One of my earliest memories is that he was a lorry driver for a foundry, Wright's Foundry on Havelock Street, and we lived in Laxton Street, just round the corner. And I have memories of sometimes going round to the foundry and seeing all the metal working going on, and the slag and the pig iron and the castings and whatever, and seeing the flames in the furnace and all the machinery involved with a foundry.
And they had a shop on the 40 the Quay, Waterford. And I moved from the Quay, from Waterford back to Dublin, where again I worked in a factory place, except that I was always the office girl, and for up till Christmas. And then I had, most surprisingly, I had a letter each from my mother, father and sister saying, please come back to Wheelstone.
Going to night driver. Would any of you lads like to apply for the night driving job? You get more money. So I said, how much more? He said, your wages will double if you take on night driving, because I couldn't get night drivers. So I shook hands with the foreman and I said, I'm on. I'll do it. And I've done that for 4 or 5 years. And first of all, it was hard because we were driving in the blackout.
And then I started work for a company called Bison Floors, which made concrete lintels, Green Lane, Hounslow. And being a rough paddy that never was anywhere out of Carsabeen before, the Cockneys, they took the piss, but then again I could dish a little bit back. We got on very well. And then there was a better job going, or apparently a better job going, in Staines Lino factory.
We were 15. So I got Dennis a job where I worked. My first job was at Woolworths, but when they came over, I was working in the hosiery, doing the bobbins. And so I got, my sister worked in the winding department, I was a spinner. And I got Dennis a job collecting the bobbins, labouring, obviously.
Did dress designing as well. I did do that for a short time as well, but I wanted to do my nursing. Most of my life, looking after people.
All that time I had to go to work in the morning, walk in about 5 in the afternoon, then the bus brought you back to Leicester for wash and change, have your dinner, and then you go across the markets, have a couple of pints, come back home, and back to work next morning.
Yeah, so then we weren't married at that time, so we were still single, but had set the date to get married in the August of the following year in 1974. So I lived in Saxby Street and had a room there, a little bedsit. I found it quite difficult in Leicester. Well, even to get a place to start with was nigh on impossible. I mean, they say housing is difficult now, but at that time,
47, 57, 58 or 59, we moved into the Royal Oak on Belgrave Gate, which I suppose at that time had been basically an English pub. It soon became an Irish pub.
Christmas 59, so I came back to London in, no, it had to be more than 59, 61. So Christmas 61, I came back to Wheelstone and I got a job earning more than my father had been earning, so they needed my income in order to just stay alive.
So I had to, there was no motorways. You had to go through all the villages and what have you. So I started off with Northampton and when I got to Northampton, it was an Arctic. Well, I was used to shunting them really, more shunting them than driving them really. And they were different on the reversing. Don't know whether you had ever driven in there, but they were different on the reversing. You had to get used to the reversing. So,
work-wise, we travelled all over the Midlands, in Lincoln, Peterborough, you'd name it, Milton Keynes. We travelled with money, with the same firm for 20 odd years. With one very good friend, my wife calls him St. James, known as Jimmy Murray, the Fox. Well, we spend a lot of time together because he was a little small fella, me being a big old lump of a geezer then. And I thought, well, if I get bit by a big man, it wouldn't be too bad. But if Murray bit me, I could never show my head out again. Yeah, so everything he told me to do, I had to do it. And I think that's it. But
I worked at the nursing home for 12 years on and off, up at St Edward's. That was my last job. And I retired when I was 60. I was doing it, it wasn't a carer. We were told we were nursing auxiliary because it was a private nursing home. But you didn't do much of the nursing, you know. Most of the shit. Well, I used to enjoy it though, feeding them and, you know.
Like, you could have a half crown on your money at the end of the week, and you could go to pictures and live and enjoy it. The half a crown now when you get your box and matches. You know what I mean? And you see...
And I did. Because of the Irish community using the pub, you got to know everybody. You knew a lot about what jobs were going on, where fellas were working, this, that and the other. Initially, when I did leave school, I worked behind the bar for my dad for 6 months, 6 or 7 months. It didn't work.
There's a space there, reverse in there. So I reversed in there. I'm very proud of myself, I'll tell you. I've done it. I got the hang of it, you see. I thought, I'm away.
Go to the Corn Exchange, the Orondo, and the Pally, it used to be called then. But it used to be brilliant. We used to go really lovely, you know.
Round bar, Red Barn Dog, and that night to go. The Silver Arcade, there used to be dancing there,
And that we became involved with Ceoltas, Ceoltóirí Éireann, and they, went for the music lessons, and they went to a couple of the dancing schools, to learn how to dance and do that type of thing. And then the boys then became very involved with GAA.
Dad became the steward of St Patrick's Catholic Club, the old tin hut before the new club was built then. And I can remember us as a small family going to all the Christmas parties and the bonfire nights and whatever outing was going on, organised by the Catholic Club.
And anyway, Seamus was very good. He'd had proper training in music and singing. So he had a good quality choir. We even made records and were on the BBC.
Well, it would be probably the Kennedy Club, the Catholic Club, St Peter's and Hinckley Road, Pat's Club, Finnegan's, numerous, here and there, yeah.
Talking about it. Anyway, from there, we used to take me there to do Finnegan's pub. And because you could put a jukebox on, you see. You had Jim Reeves, you had Cliff Richard, you had Elvis. I used to like Elvis.
Machinery of the jukebox was actually upstairs in the living room. And we'd be upstairs at night probably doing our homework, and somebody would press the box downstairs, put the money in and select a tune. And if the record was a bit wonky and it stuck, you'd have to keep moving the needle over or whatever, but it was well known.
Audie Healy and his band used to play there quite a lot. I used to love him. I used to think he was wonderful, but I never told my future husband to be that I liked him as well.
I used to go to the Pat's Club on Abbey Street when that was there. Then that shut down. Then I used to go to the Catholic Club on Highfield Street. That shut down. I was a member of the Workmen's Club in the Highfields.
Well, Secretary was the place you went to for all the, the social gatherings, and of course Leicester Ceoltas were there as well for years as well, and they had the dancing school was there. So it was kind of...
Trips to Skegness, trips to the seaside, trips to Wigstead Park, lots of things to involve the Irish community in those clubs. Also Christmas parties at the South Leicester Working Men's Club down near Filbert Street. Uncle John, Dad's brother, worked for the power station, and there was the power station club, or the electricity board club, was on Ayleston Road there. Cricket ground, a football ground and a clubhouse, and we'd go to Christmas parties there and bonfire night do's. Life was good.
One of the Scottish competitions, so we were on Scottish radio singing in Gaelic as well. So although I was never a fully fledged Gaelic speaker, I had learned Gaelic at school. And this kept the language alive, singing it and doing quite well.
And then my mum had put in an order on a Friday morning, and we'd have to go around to collect the box of groceries. And there was always a sponge cake on top of the box, a little sponge cake about that 7 or 8 inches circular, icing and a cherry on the top. That wasn't charged for, that was a gift for the kids, because my dad paid the bill every Saturday. And Derek Hogg was a lodger there, and he played for Leicester City Football Club, and we used to get complimentary tickets to go down to Leicester.
Well, my favourite sport was it was a very strenuous sport for a start. It was throwing darts. I loved the darts. I think I educated myself quite a bit. You were adding on and taking off, and that was it. It educated me quite a bit.
Dancing was the main thing, and singing. That's, we used to have a house full of people all the while. Even when I was over here, we used to do it. We used to have great, great fun and enjoy life, And
into the, we started going to Ness and Danaher, to Zor Valley, to the Irish studies.
Everybody was welcome. Dad made everybody welcome. It became a venue for all the Irish people of the town. Dad gave them a good welcome, and my mum did too.
But Nesson was involved. He had,
to find out where they'd get lodgings and get fixed up with their job, and a lot of them were directed to Finnegan's, the Royal Oak.
18 years, so I've been involved with the Irish community really only since the Gypsy Lane premises. It wasn't always the Emerald Centre, as you know, but Tony was working somewhere else. But he and Father Lally were the main cogs then. Oh, Tony was the secretary.
But they had a television, and Hopalong Cassidy at 5 o'clock was all the rage. When Dad found out that that's where we were, a television appeared in our house. Great. So, he was a bit proud. He didn't want us going around watching television. He didn't realise until it happened, and it was 2 or 3 weeks before he copped on and found out where we were, and a television appeared. That kept us in.
12, 14 years we've been at St. Patrick's in Beaumont Leys. Every Sunday night, 7:30, come on, come in, get your shoes on and get dancing. It's very enjoyable, definitely.
Got places at Durham University and Queen's College, Belfast. But by that time, at the age of 19 or 19 and a half, I'd had enough of education. I wanted to be out, go and make a start working.
Clubs originally, namely King's Head, Catholic Club, Richmond, and St. Patrick's Club in Abbey Street, which I was a member.
We used to play football in the street, cricket across the street, skipping, all sorts of games. In the winter time, you'd make a slide down the middle of the street. There was no traffic, there was no cars about.
And we said, well, we'll make one. And then it was a big decision, what name was the club going to be called? Well, I said, no matter where you go, you're going to be classed as Paddies anyway. Why not be St. Patrick's, St. Pat's? Which was agreed to after a bit of a few strong words from other sides, naturally. So that was it. It grew from very humble beginnings, booze and drinks, and that was it, to being top of the pile.
And you'd be trying to swing across the canal, and well, obviously the thing was, if you couldn't make it, you dropped into the water and you swam back to the side and did it again.
That I used to go back home regular. My mum used to pay for my fare to come back regular because I used to be upset about staying here sometimes. But then I thought, well, I've got to do the qualifications So I've just got to do that because I didn't want to go back there and absolutely do nothing. So I didn't want to do that. And then I met my husband because he was at university. My husband was. So I met him then, and that was wonderful then. Everything was changed completely for me then. I loved it.
I had a good life. I met my first wife when I walked in Leicester. That didn't work out. I've been married for about 12 years. That didn't work out. I had a son. My first wife poisoned the son against me, so we split, and that was that. So I was about 5 years on my own. I met my second wife, which was Dorothy. I was married to Dorothy for about 38 to 40 years, and it was the best time of my life. I lost Dorothy in 2008, and I've been on my own ever since.
Husband-to-be Frank in Charlestown, just on a night out with friends, introduced us, and he was home from here, from England. So we met up. He had 2 weeks holidays, and just in the social group, we'd all head away off out together and do the normal things that young people do, and be out all night until 6 a.m, and be coming home as your father would be getting up, going milking the cows. So, but there you go. And I was down from Dublin for my 2 weeks holidays as well. So, and then I went back to Dublin. He went back to England. Then he was home again for the Christmas. I met him again at the Christmas, and then I was going to America in the February. So, and I went off to America, and he had given me an address, and we started to write to each other, just little notes and that. And
so, at 62, back into the Gaelic League Choir, back to singing. I was also in a light opera company at some roundabout then. And then I met the man who's on the other side of the door and has been my husband for 50 years.
So you met him in London? Yeah.
I met him in London. I met him through the choir. So although he's an Englishman, has no Irish, he and some of the male members of the choir were in a male hostel in Kensington. And Aer Lingus were having a dance in Camden Town. And I think one of the members of the choir, the male members of the choir, had something to do with Aer Lingus and had a bunch of free tickets for young people who are 21 and not with hardly any money. And my cousin, who had never been to Ireland before, came home with her husband and daughter, and I returned to America with them. And then I spent 2 years in America, returning back home both Christmases, and Frank was back home from England as well during those two Christmases. And when I came home for the second Christmas, he said, "You're going to come to England to be with me." Well, I said, "Am I?" So, anyways, we got engaged, and I decided to leave America and come to England. But his father had offered us their farm, that he would sign the farm over to Frank. And I went home and told my own father and mother, and my own father said to me, "No, you're not going to Barnacugia," which was the village that Frank was from. And he said, "You can go to the ends of the earth with Frank, but you're not going to Barnacugia." So a bunch of guys from the male hostel, English and Irish, and a bunch of girls from the Irish club all wound up in Camden Town at this Aer Lingus dance, and we were in the same group. The man who became my husband was in this group, and we started going out. And this is now that was the tail end of July 1962, and we've been we're now nearly 51 years married. And we met in 62, married in 64, the day we came back from honeymoon. Jeff had a transfer from London to Leicester.
Then in 63 I got married. And then we had James, who was born in Paddington, known as Paddington Bear, then Mary's Hospital in Paddington. And then Geraldine come along. And basically you couldn't afford any for 2 young kids, so we decided that we moved to Leicester. And we moved to Leicester in the 1st of September 1967.
I did, yeah. We used to go to the Circular Hall. The Circular Hall, Joe Willis run it. And then I met a girl in Leicester. She come from County Limerick. And her name was Julie McGrath. And I married Julie, and we were married for 61 years. She was a great woman. She died about 7 years ago. She was a nurse. First of all, she done general nursing, and then she done mental nursing. And she loved her job. She only had the one job all the time.
Then, I did a few dates with boyfriends, but I never stuck to any of them, just to take it as a pinch of salt, just sweets and pictures. And I weren't like that anyway, brought up in the convent. And then I met Dave, their father of the children, the 2 sons of God. And us at the dance hall. Wasn't any pub, it was dance, corn exchange. All the Irish used to go on them days, and all the Irish used to. By then, what was for my first job anyway, then I'd Field and Johnson's. By then I was working in a laundry, Paragraph Laundry, just doing collars. Lovely little cushy job. Just the collars, there was starch and you had to roll them up and fancy. And putting little buttons on if they missed the shirts. There was a little machine, just so the button to miss it. They were all laundered and put back properly. It was a cushy little job for me anyway. I was there for ages. Only weren't very good. But Mum brought me back to Ireland when I was 18 for a holiday. As well, I thought to myself, I could live here again.
1960 when I met my husband. I was only young.
True life. Like only my sisters and my brother, they all own their own houses. I did have mine, but I lost a lot through my first wife and my son. When he grew up, I walked out, left it a lot, like I shouldn't have done, but we just couldn't hit eye to eye, and she poisoned me to my son, so he don't come near me. So really, at the end of the day, I walked out, gave him a lot, lost a lot, and put myself back on the square one. And then I met my second wife, Dorothy, and she had the same thing happen to her by her husband. So we lived together for about 5 years, and we're happy. We got married, and we were married for about 38 to 40 years. I wouldn't say it was all a garden of roses, because there was ups and there was downs, and you worked things out to suit yourself.
But that was forced on me when the wife had the major stroke in 01. Well, actually she was in the hospital for 6 months, so it'd be 02, me or two. I tried to keep working, and my daughter-in-law was looking after the cat. And I wasn't able to do both. Just couldn't do it. I wasn't sleeping during the night. I couldn't keep the job down. Employed by Charlie Doherty at the time, and he was very, very helpful, very supportive. I.e. minibus I wanted, everything I wanted. Charlie, yeah. And of course, so were Gregory's, yeah.
Yes, there was a group of us then at the Belgrave Laundry, and we all started going together. And I had an Leicester girl, she was my best friend, Ilma. Not Alma, Ilma was her name. Of course, she was after my brother. But my brother was a big head. That is an older brother, Mick. Older than Denson. Well, he's the next one to me. But he was handsome looking, I will say that myself, but he says, I can't go out with that, it's like a lamppost. Nothing. Anyway, we did get her in with one of my, I was courting then, I went with, I met Dave at Corn Exchange, I say, I didn't turn up after, a couple of dates, I just couldn't be bothered, And I saw him again in the Corn Exchange after that. I wasn't big-headed, I just couldn't, thought I had enough to do at home with my mum and my brothers, and I was cleaning the place and doing the bedrooms and everything. And seeing after them, giving them the shirts for school, clean shirt, making sure he was clean.
No, I really had a wonderful life, really. But I've had a lot of sadness in my life as well. Because I lost my only son, which he was a treasure to me. He went to private school from the age of 3. He spoke 5 different languages. He was a wonderful child, wonderful to me, but I can't really talk about that. And then I had a wonderful husband. I'll never be able to replace him. He was absolutely wonderful, my husband was. So we've been together since I was 16, so a long time together. We're married 45 years, and then I lost him as well. So I had a great life, really, but just sad when you lose a lot of family members and that. But we're all getting older, but my heart tells me I'm too young at heart.
That was alright when we were caught up. When we got married, she tried to run my life. Well, didn't try to run as a couple. She tried to take over everything. You just had to go out and bring the money in. And I always remember the first time she done it was the last. I went to work one morning, and packing the bags. They were only about 75 pence or something like this. And
when was that?
She put an empty pack of the bags in my pocket. I took a full packet out. So I went all the way to Coventry. No money, an empty packet of bags.
Well, when I met, I did go back with Dave. He thought that the person I was with were friends of ours, which took over the flat in Loughborough Road, MacPheely's. And I used to babysit for they had 8 children altogether. I know them, the MacPheely's. And I used to babysit, they had 4 girls then. She said, I always treat you as one of my own, Philomena, she said to me. He was Dublin, her husband, and she was, he knew my brother slightly from the Christian Brothers, Nick. So the Corn Exchange. Of course, when I met Dave again, I went with him. And I stayed with him. I was engaged, I think I was about 17 and a half. And I was 20 when I got married to him. I was engaged though for a couple of years.
Where did you get married?
Register office, because he didn't want Catholic Church and I didn't want Church of England. So, and to be quite honest, this year he was 19, I was 20.
I am a young jobber who's foolish and airy. The green hills of Kerry I went for to see. I went back to Dingle to buy up some cattle. I hope you will listen to what happened to me. I entered the fair on a Saturday morning. The first thing I saw was a long-legged goat. Bedad, says I, to commence up a dealing, I think this old hero, you're worth £1 note. I made my appearance to the dealer who held him. A bargain we made without any delay. He said, if you pay me down 21 shillings, advice I will give you before you go away. The starling old hero was reared in the mountains. In the year 64 he learned some drill, and some of his comrades, I'm told, were transported. And now he's determined some blood for to spill. The old man departed and I went for starting, and the words that he told me put me in despair. I jumped in his back and got hold of his hair, saying, now me old ranger, on your back I am landed, and if I may fall you may go where you will. He ran through the streets like someone distracted, and soon made his way to Connor's Hill. When he came into Brandon, I thought it was London. I regretted my journey when I first saw the sea. He jumped right in there and swam across it, towards Castle Gregory, just to take a short near way. The waves of the ocean put me in emotion, and the fishes they ate off the nails of me toes. And a big long black mackerel jumped up on my nostrils, and I thought he'd go away with a part of my nose.